Hello everyone, welcome back to another one of John's never-ending list of random things to do. For today's video, I will be working on the 2019 Honda Civic Hatchback Sport. In one of my previous videos, I showed you how to install the tweeters and the 6.5-inch speakers, but I did not install the 3.5-inch midway speakers. So let's work on installing it in this video. You want to start in the rear. Using a flathead screwdriver or a flathead bit, you want to pry open this tab, and then remove this Phillips screw. With that Phillips screw removed, grip this trim like so, and pull it until it pops out of place. Now you'll want to remove this weather strip here. Just grip one end like so, and peel it off. Behind this trim is two plastic retainers, one here and one right here. Stick your finger in here like so, and pry it out. This would be the last to remove in the back. Now you can move to the front. We're going to start by removing this weather strip right here. And with the weather strip removed, place your finger in here and pry this piece off. Then move towards the inside of the vehicle. Grip this trim here like so, and just pull it out of the way. And the last retainer holding this trim down is located here. You'll want to grip the trim and pull it towards the front of the vehicle, and it'll just pop on out. Now this trim is ready to be pulled out. My original trim for the sports model is located at the top, and at the bottom is the trim from the EX, or the EXL. You may also notice there's a giant hole in this area. That's because I did a few experiments trying to get these speakers to fit. You'll see how shallow the mounting area is behind this trim once I get it installed. Looking at it from this view, you'll see that the magnet is right up against this pillar right here, and this trim still has a long ways to go before it can be hooked back into place. So installing the speaker from the back side of the panel is out of the window. An option you do have is to install it in here like so, but you might want to make a ring or something to make it sit flush. Now that I have a general idea of where I want to install the speakers, it's time to run the wires. You'll want to get your wires and feed as much as you can through this way. Then looking through this crack here, get your cable and pull it through. Then feed it all the way up to the top and put it through the speaker hole. Going back to the passive crossover, make the appropriate connections and screw them down. Now going to the other end, you want to make it as long as you need it for your installation. Remember to give yourself some slack. Instead of mounting the speakers flat, I ended up trying to give it an angle, and I gave it a test run to see how it sounded. Now it's time to make some markings. Using a silver Sharpie, I made a boundary line right here, so I know to not pass this line for any modifications. I then traced this circle here using this acrylic. I'll be using this acrylic instead of mounting the speaker to the plastic trim, and then I'll give it an angle. Once those markings are in place, you'll want to remove this trim once again. If you don't have a hole saw or some type of saw to cut this, you can use a drill and a drill bit and just make a bunch of holes. Once you're done drilling a bunch of holes, use a cutter tool to cut the pieces between the holes that you drilled. Then this piece will just peel right out. You'll want to go back and smoothen the edges using a filing tool or sandpaper. After some good filing, I test fitted my ring to see if it fit perfectly, and we're looking good. So this trim has to be installed again, and this acrylic ring will sit something like this. In order to get both sides to shoot at the same angle, I went to Car Audio Fabrications and purchased one of these speaker aiming tool. Now I can place my speaker ring and mark the location where the laser is pointing. You'll also want to apply some hot glue to the acrylic and the plastic trim so it doesn't lose that firing angle. You probably want to do a fitment test before you proceed to make sure everything clears. And everything's looking good. Now I did not show this part, but you'll want to add extra support on the bottom side here. That way the acrylic ring doesn't move around. Once you've done so, it's time to add some fabric to start forming some structures. You want to glue the fabric to the edges as best as you can. And once all the holes have been covered by fabric, you want to trim these excess pieces off. And it'll look something like this. Now it's time for some fiberglassing. I cut some small patches of fibers, applied it around here like so, then applied some sunflash resin. I put it under direct sunlight for a few minutes and it was ready to be worked on. You'll want to do your best to get rid of any of these unnecessary pieces. Then once you're done with all the trimming, you'll want to sand everything down smooth. Before proceeding, it might be a good idea to wipe the surfaces clean using alcohol and a towel. Then mask off the area around here like so you can start applying your body filler. You'll want to start off with a good amount. Then apply your activator and mix them really good. Now you can start applying the body filler. Don't worry about making it perfect the first time. You'll probably have to do 2 or 3 applications before it starts to look good. After a few applications and a lot of fun sanding, this is the outcome. If you have any small holes or imperfections like this, don't worry. You can fill them up using spot putty. This is a much softer material and is much easier to sand down later. Now I do have to admit, these holes and imperfections are pretty big, but I gave this spot putty a try anyway, and it turned out pretty good. And you'll want to apply it using a flat surface, not your finger like how I'm doing it. So after some more fun sanding, you should end up with something looking like this. If you look at it carefully, I actually had to pass my boundary line. So it is very important that you do a fitment check. And it just barely clears. And the good thing about this is, the seatbelt is still usable. So now that everything checks out, it's time to clean this trim up and prep it for painting. Using a microfiber towel and some alcohol, wipe your trim as best as you can. To start off, you'll want to coat it with some texture coating. This will give your trim that original texture look. You'll want to spray this about 18 inches away. Spray a few coats and let it dry. And once it's dry, you'll want to follow up with a paint that closely matches your trim. Before applying your paint, if you masked anything off, you'll want to remove your masking tape. Then proceed to apply your paint. Now I didn't show it here, but I sprayed the entire front piece of the trim, allowed it to dry, and this is what it looks like. Now before you install the trim, you're going to want to align your speaker as center as possible and drill these 4 holes. And once you have done so, it's time to reinstall the trim. To reinstall the trim, you're going to want to remove this trim right here. If you look on the back side of this trim, you'll see this plastic retainer right here. Press it from the back side until it pops out. Then you'll want to grip it and peel off this piece right here. Slide the seatbelt over, and using your finger from the back side, pry it out. And here's a quick look at all the plastic clips and retainers. Now you can slide the trim in like so. Don't forget to feed your cable through here first. And now it's time to attach the trim. You'll want to start with this plastic retainer first. Follow that up by attaching the 2 retainers behind this trim right here. There should be a plastic retainer here that should be worked in next, along with the trim you just attached this trim to. Next you'll want to pull your trim and slide it back over this retainer. Now this weather strip can be reapplied. Moving on towards the back, these 2 retainers can be reapplied. Align them like so and smack them back into place. The bottom portion should be realigned, so smack it back into place. And reapply the weather strip. Now to reinstall this trim here, you'll want to start by reinserting these 2 tabs first, but don't forget to slide it through your seatbelt. And once you have done so, work the 2 tabs in like so. Then this piece can be snapped into place. And last of all, smack this back into place. And that's all there is to it. Now that all the trims are placed properly, screw in this Phillips screw completely. And reinsert this tab. Finally, it's time to mount the speakers. Align it with the mounting holes you should have made before you reinstall your trim, along with the speaker grill. You'll want to be careful where you place your speaker grills. I remember holding it at one point, and the next it just disappeared. So one side was installed with the speaker grill, and the other side was installed without it. Now with the 2 speakers installed in the back, when I have passengers sitting in the back side, It doesn't sound so dead. I hope some of you found this video helpful. If you did and you liked it, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed yet, maybe even consider subscribing. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys for the next random project.